Hello everyone and welcome to my throwback review of the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Voyager class Mindwipe as well as the Scout class Skystalker. Two characters that unfortunately we never got to see realised on the silver screen. However, Hasbro did gift us by giving these two characters here a movie-fied representation, and in my opinion these are some of the best Revenge of the Fallen figures that we have ever gotten. The reasoning behind why I'm reviewing both of these two characters is because they're actually companion pieces to one another. You can indeed combine Skystalker here to the jet mode of Mindwipe, and in my opinion that is just such a fun and awesome gimmick. Starting off here firstly by taking a look at the Scout class Skystalker, I think that the detailing on such a small figure is truly remarkable. Unfortunately, we don't have Scout class in any of the main lines, so this really is one of my first ever experiences with this particular scale, and to be honest with you, I think that the quality as well as the engineering to this figure is truly remarkable. We've got some fantastic detailings here of the Decepticon insignias. I love some of the decals as well as the overall elegance to this jet, seeing as how small he is. The way that they've actually managed to compact some of the robot mode pieces I think has been replicated really nicely. We've got some fantastic detailing here. You can even pick out some vents as well as the silver paint applications, and I think that the overall sculpt work to this piece looks really nice. They've even gone the extra mile to actually give us real working landing gear, which is something that we don't even see on some of the mainline Voyager class figures anymore, but you can see that here it has got a pin through it and does roll. The other support structures are just these tabs here and here, so that is really the only way that you can actually prop him up when in vehicle mode. You can of course compress the landing gear here in order to give him a much more cleaner and coherent look, so just hinging this section back, you can see that it definitely does make the jet look slightly more elegant, but I just think that the overall detailing on this piece here looks absolutely fantastic. Setting Skystalker off here to the side and focusing here on the Voyager class Mindwipe, similarly to that of Skystalker, I really do love how their designs as well as their colour schemes are very coherent with one another. However, of course, with this figure being a Voyager class, they have managed to pack in a lot more sculpted in detailing. I love the Cybertronian hieroglyphs that we have here on the wings. These are details that were very predominant throughout the Michael Bay era of Transformers movies, and it's great to see them implemented here. We've also got the movieverse Decepticon insignia here on the top section of the jet, and you can see the fantastic purple paint applications as well as the very menacing red transparent cockpit. You can also see that this jet, similarly to that of Skystalker, is very sleek in terms of its overall design. Really not that much robot mode kibble on it whatsoever, which I think is fantastic. This figure here is such an awesome design, and when we actually get him into robot mode, I'm pretty sure that many of you will agree with me in saying that this is such a wasted design and should have featured in the ROTF movie. Similarly also to Skystalker, we do have real working landing gear, which once again is something that we don't see apparent on many figures. You can see that all of the wheels here do roll, and we can of course compress all the landing gear here in order to give this figure a much more cleaner and coherent look. So just compressing that, you can see how sleek and streamlined this jet is. I do believe that this is based on a Nighthawk, so that I do believe that Hasbro have done a fantastic job, and this is supposed to be a very elegant jet as well, and I think that they've done a really nice job in capturing that. Turning to the compatibility aspect of these two figures, you can see that underneath here for Skystalker we do have these two 5mm tabs that do peg into these 5mm ports, which I just think is so awesome. The compatibility amongst some of the ROTF figures, in my opinion, was some of the best. I really do think that some of these concept characters that made their way into the ROTF toy line are potentially some of the best figures that we have ever gotten, and Mindwipe and Skystalker here are definitely no exception to that. I think that these two figures here look absolutely fantastic. You can see there how Skystalker does sit here on the top of Mindwipe. He acts almost as if though he is a drone that Mindwipe would deploy, similarly to that of Soundwave and Laserbeak, and I just think that this is so awesome. Turning to the transformation now of Skystalker, we will first of all come here to the wings and just attach those. Quite surprisingly, for such a small figure, I think that the complexity to this is actually quite involved. So we're then going to want to pull down the legs now on both sides, and then once that's done we can turn our attention to the back section, and we're just going to want to split these pieces, as these do actually turn into the arms of Skystalker. So just detach those here and hinge these out to the sides. Take this whole front nose cone section and flip this section forwards, and then that will then allow us to extend the head out here on this double hinge joint. Very awesome looking head sculpt. However, we'll delve more into that later on throughout the review. Hinge these sections up all the way and then rotate those around. These pieces here are really up to your own personal preference. They are in ball joints as well as a hinge joint, so you can hinge these around to whatever way you so desire, and then just taking this section here and hinging this all the way up, and then rotating the hands around, Coming now down to the legs, he does unfortunately suffer from a very similar problem to that of the Revenger of the Fallen, in the sense that the feet here are indeed spring-loaded, so they only really stay out when he is plonked along the ground. This figure does also have built-in weaponry, which I think is awesome, and is a really nice use of some of the vehicle mode components. So in order to actually utilise these, you're going to want to pop this section here forwards, and you can see that we do get these almost blade-like weapons deployed, and these do just peg into these slots here. So you can see that we do have a tab there that we just simply want to align that up and snap that into place, and repeat the same process here from the opposite side. So you can see these slight groove sections, you're just going to want to apply a reasonable amount of force and just pop those out, and you can see that that one did actually snap out with quite a considerable amount of force, and then just tab that in there really nice and securely. And there we have Skystalker fully transformed and looking absolutely terrific, very insectoid in his design, and really does match what we got for some of the Michael Bay Transformers, especially the actual Insecticon that Sam does squish. Bringing him in for a closer look, you can really appreciate the amount of sculpted and detailing that they've packed into this figure. I loved how much attention to detail Hasbro used to put into these concept characters. I really wish that this was a character that we did see in the movie. You can see all of that fantastic paint applications as well as his singular Cyclops eye. We also do have some fantastic sculpted and detailing actually on the underneath of the wing, which once again is something that perhaps we unfortunately wouldn't see on mainline Transformers nowadays. And you can pick out all of this lovely sculpted and detailing, the fingers, and I do actually think his weapons look super cool as well. Definitely very reminiscent to that of Clubs, and we've also got some nice silver detailing on these. And turning down now finally to the crutch area, you can also pick out some nice gold and purple detailing, as well as here some silver vents, and the feet have also got some lovely sculpted detailing as well. Turning to articulation, his head here is on a ball joint, so it can look up and down, side to side, as well as rotate left to right. You could also utilize that double hinge joint in order to get a greater range of motion. These sections are on hinge joints as well as ball joints, so you can move these all the way around to your so desire. We also have ball joints here at the arms, as well as ball joints here at the elbows, allowing for a full 360 rotation, as well as a 90-degree bend there. We have ball joints here at the legs, which kick forwards and backwards, as well as out to the sides. We also do have thigh rotation, which I was just not expecting on a figure of this scale, and we do also get a knee bend here. However, the way it's designed, it is slightly odd in terms of its overall design. However, in my opinion, works very, very effectively. And then finally, turning to the feet, due to the way that they do transform, you can see that they do just spring back and forth. However, of course, if you plonk him along the ground, the feet here will stay sprayed open, and I just think that he's such an awesome looking figure. And so now turning to the transformation here for Mindwipe, similarly to that of Skystalker, the transformation is actually quite surprisingly simplistic. However, in my opinion, is very effective. Now, it has been quite a considerable amount of time since I have actually last transformed this figure, so please do excuse me if some of the steps do appear to be slightly rusty. I will do my best in order to replicate the official transformation. To begin with, I believe that we just had to pop open these sections here. All of the joints, considering that this figure is well over 10 years old, have still retained their strength, and all the plastic feels fantastic, which is so awesome to see. Back in the day, the ROTF figures truly were some of the best Transformer figures ever produced, in my opinion. We're then going to want to turn around here to the front and just rotate these sections around. So these are the legs, and then we can just flip out the toes on both sides. Turning to this whole region now, I believe that we have to separate this, as these are actually the arms for Mindwipe. So just untab all these and hinge those up. Very nice and thick plastic on this figure. Take this piece here now and rotate this all the way around so that we have this section now facing the front. We're then going to want to take this piece, lift this out and fold the head in. And as we do that, take this entire torso and also rotate that around. And if the head hasn't come all the way through, just lift this section and then collapse this piece down. I do believe that this piece here is actually supposed to come out slightly more, so perhaps just give that a nice squeeze, ensuring that everything is nice and secured and tabbed into place. Now what we're supposed to do is bring these arms all the way down here, and then just take these sections, and you're going to want to hinge these all the way back. And with this piece, it will actually spring forwards, and you're going to want to bring the hands all the way forwards as well, as this will actually clip onto this section here. So just ensure that the hands are pulled all the way down so that the clips here on these daggers do actually align up with this section. So it is rather difficult to do, and of course I don't want to apply too much pressure to the plastic, but once that is aligned you can see that does tab in there really nice and securely, and repeat the exact same process here on the opposite side. Just an absolute fantastic figure. I really do wish that we could go back to the old Revenge of the Fallen Dark of the Moon days, as in my opinion it was such an awesome time to be a Transformers fan, and thankfully those times are slowly returning with our most recent toy lines. I think that the Studio Series, as well as some of the War for Cybertron figures, are some of the best that we have ever gotten. But you can see that the joints are so stiff on this. I'm actually not going to force this one all the way in, as I am afraid that this piece here will snap. But then you're just going to want to take this here, and this line was of course well renowned for its Mecha Live gimmick. So as we take this piece here, these pieces will pop out and this wing will fold backwards. So you can see how that all works. Super cool engineering on this piece. And repeat the same process here for the opposite side. Turning now down finally to this section, you can bring these pieces out. However, in my opinion, I don't really like the overall look of this, as it does give him that very obscure chicken leg design. But with all that being done, here we have Mindwipe fully transformed up into his astounding looking robot mode. And so taking a look here at Mindwipe in his robot mode, aren't these two just a sight to behold? I really do wish that we could have seen these two in the movie, as I think that they could have been fantastic villains and opponents for the Autobots to go up against. But these two here as companion pieces I think look fantastic. I really do love the movie aesthetic that these two scream when you look at them. Very alien in their design, and of course have got that Michael Bay element mixed in with the very insectoid-like heads, and of course the chicken leg designs, which is apparent on both of these. I just think that they are truly fantastic figures. Moving Skystalker here off to the side and focusing here on the main event, that being Mindwipe. As I give you a quick 360-degree spin, you can truly appreciate how awesome he looked and how elegant his jet mode was, and then compare it here to this very beefy, very bulky looking robot. I do think that the design on this is flawless, very menacing in terms of its overall appearance, and I think that the colour schemes just work. This figure isn't painted all that well, it is merely just relying on moulded plastic, but I think that the moulded plastic complements itself really nicely. As we bring him in for a closer look and just appreciating that head sculpt, very alien in terms of its design. I love the fact that we can also see some eyes behind this red visor, as well as the fantastic silver paint applications that we've got here for the mouthpiece. These pieces here have also been painted in a really nice red, and the Decepticon insignia there with some of this golden paint applications. As we turn here to the overall design here for the arms, I love how the wings wrap around. They don't just sit off to the side like we're used to with some of the Seekers. They do actually wrap around, and I do love how these dagger sections do stick out as well. Just such an awesome looking design. As stated before, this line was renowned for the Mecha Live gimmick, so not only did he have the Mecha Live gimmick in the wings, but if you take this section here and actually push it, we do get these blades that fold out, and I just think that this is so awesome. I can definitely imagine Mindwipe using these in combat in order to destroy the Autobots, and of course they do just clip back into place. This side also does flip out as well. I just think that he's such an awesome looking character. I can definitely imagine him dealing some damage to Bumblebee or even Optimus Prime. And then as we turn down here to the lower region, very similar to the Bayformer aesthetic in the sense that he has an incredibly large upper torso, how the legs are incredibly skimpy and really thin, but in my opinion I think it looks awesome. Of course we do have some of that fantastic mechanical detailing actually sculpted into these sections. However, of course, if you wish for a more bulky look for the legs, we can just compress these, and in my opinion this is actually my preferred way to display Mindwipe. I just think that that looks a lot more proportionate, and I'm not really a huge fan of the chicken leg design here for this figure, but you can see that the feet design, very obscure, very alien in its design, and just as a whole I think that it's an awesome looking figure. In terms of articulation, considering the time in which this was made, I think that the articulation is just glorious. So we do have a ball joint here at the head which can look up, it can look down, it can tilt side to side, rotate the full 360. We also have a hinge joint here in order to further excel that range of motion that we get from the ball joint. The arms here are on ratchet joints forwards and backwards, as well as here out to the sides. These sections do slightly obstruct the articulation. However, if we move them to the side, we can also hinge this up and down. Full 360 rotation here at the bicep, as well as a double joint here for the elbow. You can see that we do have two joints, so we can utilize both of those. We don't get really any wrist articulation besides hinging back and forth due to transformation. Something which is super surprising to see is that we do indeed get a waist rotation, which I just think is awesome and really does help you to amplify some of the more menacing poses. The legs here are on ratchet joints forward, so they can kick all the way up as well as kick all the way back. They can also hinge out to the sides. Full 360 rotation here at the thigh, as well as a well over 90-degree bend there for the knee due to the transformation. You saw earlier on that we do have a hinge joint here in order for you to actually chicken leg Mindwipe, and we also do finally have a hinge joint here for the foot. No ankle rocker joint, as that was something that we never really saw on the 2009 era of figures, but seeing as this is a 2009 figure, I think that the articulation truly is fantastic, and in terms of detail, I really do think that this is one of the best Revenge of the Fallen figures that we have ever gotten. For a comparison, just bringing back in Skystalker, you saw, as stated when I began my review there for Mindwipe, just how awesome these two look. You can definitely imagine these rocking up and causing some serious damage to the Autobot opponents. And now turning here to a more contemporary size comparison, here we have both Mindwipe and Skystalker compared next to the Voyager class Blitzwing as well as the newly released Deluxe class Bumblebee. And it is really here with this size comparison that you can see the drastic decrease in terms of the amount of plastic that figures nowadays have, as well as their overall scale. Both of these figures here are Voyagers, and Blitzwing is actually one of the largest out of the Studio Series Voyagers, but Mindwipe here just absolutely towers over him. And when you compare the amount of plastic used, it is definitely more substantial here with Mindwipe. Comparing the Deluxe class Bumblebee to the Scout class Skystalker, Skystalker here is actually a little bit taller than Bumblebee, and considering that this figure nowadays is a Deluxe, it really is mind-blowing as to how Hasbro Transformers have evolved over the last 10 or 11 years, but still very awesome looking figures. Not to take anything away from these two figures, I do think that they're both fantastic entries into our Studio Series and Earthrise lines, but when compared here next to the older Voyagers as well as the Scout class, you can definitely see here how Hasbro has slightly began to decrease the amount of plastic that they used, but super cool looking figures nonetheless. And so that was my throwback review of the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Voyager class Mindwipe as well as the Scout class Skystalker. I really do hope that you enjoyed this throwback video. I just wanted to give you something slightly different than my normal, more regular uploads, in the sense that many of you have been asking for me to actually revisit some of the Revenge of the Fallen figures, and the reception has always been rather positive, so I really wanted to come back with some of these throwback reviews and start off here with which is, in my opinion, some of the best Revenge of the Fallen figures that we ever got. I think Mindwipe is definitely one of the best Voyager class figures from the ROTF toy line, and in terms of Scout class, as stated before, I'm not entirely familiar with that entire line, but Skystalker is definitely very awesome and really has made an impression on me. I think that the overall complexity to the transformation as well as the detail for such a small figure is really mind-blowing, and Mindwipe is equally as good if not better. So if you can trace these figures down, I highly recommend that you do so. I really do hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below. Also be sure to let me know what other older figures you would like me to revisit and review. I would definitely love to hear some of your suggestions, and also be sure to let me know on what you think of both of these figures and whether or not you do actually have these in the collection, or if after this review you're actually going to go hunting for them. In my opinion, these are some of the best mainline figures that I have in the collection, and I'm so glad that I do actually have them. I thank you all for watching this review, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.